Tonight, and very glad to be there. A fire in their Greek-registered ship put them in a lot of danger in rough Alaskan waters. Their rescuers, the U.S. Coast Guard ship, the USS Munro. That's a ship based in Alameda. Today, the rescuers and the rescued came home. News Center 4's Isabel Duran was there.
The Coast Guard cutter Munro returned to its Alameda port for the holidays with an extra 27 grateful seamen aboard. Greek, Tanzanian, Polish, and Filipino. Few spoke English, but as their sea legs touched terra firma, most breathed a prayer of thanks.
I would like to express in public my thanks and thanks of my crew.
The Mayday call from the cargo carrier, the Hyundai Seattle, went out December 9th, 500 miles out of WHEC, Alaska. An engine room fire threatened the ship and cargo. The 798-foot ship was listing and rolling dangerously in stormy, windy seas. They might have to abandon ship.
What also kept us going was the fact that there's no greater nightmare for a mariner than to be on a burning vessel and to have no place to go but into a stormy sea hundreds of miles from shore.
On law enforcement duty in Alaskan waters, 750 miles from the endangered cargo carrier, the Munro steamed through choppy North Pacific waters for 3 days to the rescue.
Roger, sir. Do you also have life jackets? Over.
Yeah, life jacket for everybody. Life jacket for everybody. Over.
In a 2.5-hour operation with winds blowing to 55 knots and 30-foot swells, the cutter Munro used its rescue chopper to hoist the 27 men to safety.
Okay, is this big enough? Big enough?
We had to hover 150 to 200 feet over the vessel itself and retrieve the crewmen. We did it one at a time using the basket and then deliver them to Munro.
The rescuers were a welcome sight.
A lot of them didn't speak English, yeah. But the few that did were very grateful and very appreciative.
The captain of the Munro said the mission was completed thanks to skill, luck, and a Christmas miracle. Despite the fire and rough seas, all the seamen made it off the Hyundai Seattle uninjured. Isabel Duran, News Center 4.
It was all in a day's work for the Coast Guard crew. Isabel says they actually had a couple other rescues during their Alaskan tour.
But routine. The crew found itself in the middle of a risky mission that saved 27 people aboard a burning boat in the Gulf of Alaska. As Channel 7's Ed Leslie reports, all of them made it back to solid ground today.
After 66 days at sea, the cutter Munro returned today to home port at Coast Guard Island, Alameda, but with 27 extra people on board. A routine North Pacific law enforcement maneuver turned into a dramatic open ocean high seas rescue after the Greek registry container vessel Hyundai Seattle caught fire and lost power and steering.
If for some reason the people on deck feel that they have to disconnect the basket, first of all, I would like for them not to do that, but if they feel they must, please do not take the cable and attach it to anything. Over.
Roger on that.
The Coast Guard had to use a helicopter for the rescue since the heaving seas made it impossible to approach by ship. Containers were even hanging over the side. The pilot of the helicopter.
I've had plenty of SAR cases, which stands for search and rescue, but none of this magnitude. The conditions were, we had a nice weather window in between real severe Arctic storms that we had a chance to operate, so the sky conditions were nice, but the seas and the winds were quite harsh.
The captain of the cutter Munro.
Certainly as this country's premier maritime life-saving service, we were trained for this type of rescue, but I've got to tell you that what also kept us going was the fact that there's no greater nightmare for a mariner than to be on a burning vessel and to have no place to go but into a stormy sea hundreds of miles from shore.
The captain of the stricken tanker.
My thanks and thanks of my crew. First of all, to United States Coast Guard, and especially to Captain Jeffrey Hathaway, commanding officer of United States Coast Guard cutter Munro.
The crew of the ill-fated ship was made up of Tanzanian nationals, Filipinos, and Greeks, and no one, it seemed, had much to say about the incident. But family members gave the crew of the Munro the hero's welcome they earned.
I'm glad he's home.
The next planned deployment for the Coast Guard cutter Munro is early February, when the ship will return to the Gulf of Alaska and can well expect to encounter the same weather conditions. The Hyundai Seattle, meanwhile, may or may not be afloat tonight. She was last seen wallowing in heavy seas 500 miles from Adak, Alaska. At Coast Guard headquarters in Alameda, Ed Leslie, Channel 7.